Blindspot Season 2 Finale, Lepers Repel. This was a pretty awesome season finale. I was very curious where things were going to go by the end of this season, and I'll definitely save just everything they did at the end, which was I thought was very well done. So I'm definitely going to save that for the end of my review. But this episode in general, I thought was pretty freaking sweet. We have the team, doing everything they can to figure out the final part of Phase 2 with Shepard and Roman working together, which that admittedly kind of surprised me. We find out that Roman is completely working with his mother. There were no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It was like, nope, he was with Shepard, and that was pretty much all there was to it. I thought maybe with some of this stuff, they kind of had him. I mean, he is always brooding, so I guess I was looking too far into it. I was like, he's got certain looks, and maybe that means he'll, betray her or something. But it was like, nope, he was with her the whole time. So the team, of course, has to work together. Shepard and the current CIA director, they end up breaking out from like this COGS meeting, so they're able to get to the team and let them know exactly what's happening. The team is able to basically trace back like these very specific explosives to this one guy, and so once he finds out that Shepard's plan wasn't just to destroy the White House, but it would hit basically a cache of explosives that would send out nuclear radiation, he freaked out because it was like, oh crap, that would actually kill my sister as well. So they find out what the plan is. They realize that it's satellite based. They bring everything back with the rocket and everything. And it was just a really good episode that everybody kind of splits off into teams. There's some references about, characters kind of leaving and what they may or may not do in the future of the team. We have the new, official FBI director that took the place of the guy from the last episode. She seems cool. I like her character, very southern. But she comes in and like her first thing is basically like, hey, Jane, you're free to go once this is all said and done. You kind of had a deal that pretty much made you a prisoner of the FBI, but now you are free to leave. Once we do this, like this is it. You can go wherever you want. And so things are brought up, of course, relationship-wise, the everlasting relationship of Weller and Jane. So that's brought up a couple times throughout the episode. But I certainly like what they did. The team splitting up, everyone. At least within the episode, kind of going their separate ways. And of course, it was a very serious issue, but as things got closer and closer to the end of the episode, it seemed like things were getting better, and then something random would happen, like they ended up capturing Shepard. And I was like, okay, that should be interesting. They actually have her now. They can stop this, no big deal. They assumed that the tracker was like either on her or in the truck or something like that. So it's like, all right, we have to figure out what's going on here. And then, of course, we find out that Shepard actually swallowed the beacon. Weller had the genius idea to use a defibrillator on her, which totally could have killed her. But I guess considering it was at her stomach, I guess that's why she lived, because you're not supposed to have that happen to you when you're fine. That's not supposed to work on you. But she was totally fine in the end, and so she's able to officially be arrested and stuff. So that was good. I was glad that they didn't kill her, because it was one of those things where it was like, I'm okay with her being completely captured, and she goes through the process of seemingly being mentally tortured. We get like a really cool shot of Nas, so that was awesome to see her kind of show up at the last second, and she's with the CIA, or at least in conjunction with them. So that was definitely an awesome moment where we see Nas show up at the last minute. Like that was pretty a cool way to do that for sure. So I love that sequence. We of course have our sibling rivalry continuing throughout this episode with Roman versus Jane. And ultimately it comes down to Jane doesn't want to kill her brother. And he kind of wants it to happen, but she doesn't. So she doesn't let it happen, or, she doesn't kill him. And so he kind of walks off. Well, they can't really do much because he's all sorts of messed up. So, once he hits, the ground, he's kind of down for the count. And that's when he's finally able to, after all the crazy madness of having to, try to fry this beacon inside of Shepard's stomach, getting shot at. I mean, they always get shot at like crazy, so that's nothing really new for them. But after all the craziness that they went through, he's finally able to just tell Jane that he loves her, and we get her saying the same thing at the end of the episode when they're all at the party. So it was good. They form a relationship. I didn't expect us to get to the end of the episode. It's like boom, 2 years later, and then he finds her and it's like, oh, you're still wearing your ring, and they got married and everything. So that was very cool. I definitely like that, but I love the way they did this episode. The action was definitely good. I feel like the threats were just continually rising. Like there was just tension back and forth. Even though I figured, of course, the heroes would win. This is the type of show where you don't know exactly how they're gonna win. Where it's like, are they going to win, but also kind of lose? Because we've seen that happen before, kind of like the last episode, where it's like, ultimately they won, but people can still be hurt. So I was definitely wondering how all of that was going to play. Like, even in this episode, you know, they go for Shepard, and the two dudes on motorcycles show up, which, this is the one thing that bugged me the whole episode. I was like, those two random dudes on motorcycles showed up to help Shepard, and they killed everybody except for Weller and Jane. I was like, I know it's TV, it's what, you know, people call plot armor, but I was like, man, they killed every single person who just decked out. Like, every person outside of Jane and Weller was like decked out top to bottom. You couldn't see anybody's face because they weren't important actors, except for Jane and Weller. And all of them were just shot up. Like, everybody was getting taken down. And then they take out, you know, finally take out the two dudes on the motorcycle. And I was like, they killed everybody. There's all these different, you know, trucks and stuff. People are in all sorts of different positions. But they killed every single person except for Jane and Weller. And I was like, that's a little too far for my suspension of disbelief. Just in that specific moment, it was just like, that's crazy to me. Like, there's so many people versus two guys. And they killed everybody except for the two main characters. And I was just like, it just felt a little too far. That was like the one thing that took me out. I was like, that just felt like just a little bit too crazy for me. Especially with the way they were positioned. It wasn't like, you know, the guys were in front of them so they had equal opportunity to kill everyone. They were on two different sides, but there were trucks and stuff in all sorts of crazy positions. And of course, Jane and Weller were just like right in the middle of all these guys, but people were dying all around them, but they never got hit. And it was just funny to me. It's like, it was such a TV moment to me. But, you know, after everything they went through, ultimately they end up succeeding, which I thought was very cool. And so, you know, we get this crazy 2-year time skip, which I thought was very cool. I always love a good time skip. It's always entertaining. It's also a simple way to keep up the age of the characters with the age of the actors, because we're going into season 3, so easy way to do it. Just skip 2 years. It's like 1, 2, and, you know, there you go. But I really love the way they did it, where we have Jane, you know, she's climbing this mountain, and she's been gone for quite some time. So I would assume she's been gone for maybe, I would guess, maybe 6 months. At least 6 months, because Weller was kind of freaking out. I was like, I was scared. I didn't think I'd find you at all, stuff like that. And I would assume that that was from her leaving for quite some time. And, like, obviously, you know, her mentioning, like, oh, you're still wearing the ring, that meant a lot. So, you know, they don't really reference it too much, so we don't exactly know if all of her memories finally came back. I would assume that that's the case. Maybe that you know, that coming back to her is what ultimately tore them apart, because she's having all of these memories, and now it's the emotions of two different lives kind of, you know, coming together after, you know, them getting rid of this whole plan that technically she did work, you know, most of her life to complete, and then she worked, you know, this new part of her life to stop. So I feel like that's what ultimately happened, where, you know, she was getting all his memories back, and it's like, crap, I can't really do this. This doesn't, you know, it doesn't feel right anymore. So that's my theory, at least, on why, you know, they would get married and then break up. And it was only 2 years, so I feel like, you know, they were married for like a year or something, maybe a year and a half, and then they broke up, and then, you know, she leaves. So that's my theory on that. But either way, everything brings them both together, because some random person decides that they need to kidnap the rest of the team. So Patterson is kidnapped, Reed is kidnapped, Zapata is kidnapped, and now it's just Weller and Jane. And she sent this crazy box, but it needs both of their thumbprints in order to open up. And then there's this random little thing in there, and when they both put their thumbprints on it, it activates, and it shows the little bird tattoo that she has. And then when they put it to her neck, it's like Tron, where her whole body starts like illuminating like she's some underwater fish or some deep sea fish. And I was just like, what the heck? Like, that's just a crazy ending. So it was a great way to end it. Because I was wondering, I was like, okay, well, if they defeat Shepard, you know, that was like my big question. Where do we go from here? What sort of mystery can they put forward as far as season 3? And clearly, there's a huge mystery. And I mentioned before that with Sandstorm being such a huge organization, it's an easy way to do it, where you just say, all right, well, Shepard was in charge, but someone decided to take over because they still want this plan to work, or at least try a new version of the plan. But now it's like a whole new layer to the tattoos, and like literally, you know, bioluminescence like within her body and stuff. So I don't know what the heck they're going to be bringing up. I would assume they were solving, you know, all these different crimes and stuff about, you know, the tattoos and everything, just getting rid of more and more people, because she's had so many, you know, obviously even within 2 seasons, they didn't solve every single tattoo. So I would assume that they did that with that extra 2-year gap. They saw like pretty much every tattoo, or, you know, most of them. So, you know, if not all, then most. And I guess not the bird tattoo, or even if they did, I can't remember if the bird tattoo was one that they actually saw. But either way, there's a whole new layer. There's like, I guess it looked like the tattoos were lighting up. It didn't look like they were brand new tattoos, but I'm pretty sure there were some. So I'm sure some of them lit up, and maybe it revealed extra bits of information, and then some like brand new luminescent tattoos showed up. But it was a great way to end it, where I was like, all right, so they defeat the main villain. Roman isn't really holding much of a grudge. He's like, he wanted to die, and then it's just like, all right, see ya. And, so he goes on his way. And ultimately, they stop the terrorist attack. Everything's kind of good. And then we get this 2-year skip, and it's like, poof, the team is kidnapped. And now Willer and Jane have to team up again after who knows how long of being married and then being divorced. And Jane going on this journey of, trying to find herself, I guess. So, very great way to end it. Very surprising ending with that sort of cliffhanger, because I was like, I was just curious. I was like, all right, so where do we go from here? Like, it's kind of a happy ending. Like, they finally get together and stuff, and then it's just like, boom, 2 years later, super big time skip. Teen's kidnapped. You've been missing for who knows how long. They got married. They got divorced. Now there's like super digital tattoos inside her body too. So there's just a whole new excessive layer of mystery. So they did a great job there, because I'm like, that's kind of the heart of the show, is that it's mystery. Like, what is going to happen next? So I'm very excited to see what they come up with. But this is definitely a fun finale. It had some really good action. I think the tension was really great, especially the ending moment when everything was all said and done, because everybody was freaking out, and Patterson was doing everything that she could to stop this missile from landing where it was supposed to on the Capitol. And it was just well done. Like, I thought the acting was really well done. Just in that moment, everybody's freaking out. It's like, all right, we got like Jane fighting against her brother. Weller's freaking out because he's like, all right, I gotta use his defibrillator to try to fry this beacon inside of her body. Patterson was doing everything that she could to slow it down, and then when that didn't work, it's like, we're at the point of no return. We have to figure out how to stop this thing. So everyone's just freaking out like the whole way through, for very good reason. But it was good acting as always. But it was just a really intense moment. And then of course everybody has like their really big happy moment when nobody ends up dying, because that would have been really intense. So definitely a great way to end the season out. They have their big moment. They defeat the big villain. Now there's some new mysterious villain that I guess had to drive Weller to actually go find Jane. Like, that was the big thing. And I would assume if he was looking for her, then they've been kidnapped for quite a while. It's hard to say, of course. Like, we don't know how long he was looking for her. We don't know if it was just like instantaneous, like, poof, I found you, and I knew you were in this area, but it took him a while. So I would assume that they'd been kidnapped for quite a while. It's like, okay, that's why he was so freaked out that he would never find her, because maybe she had already been kidnapped. So I'm excited to see where we go with this. Who's this new person that's trying to take over? What's the deal with the new version of the tattoos? There are a lot of questions, and that's great, because that's what the show is. That's like the heart of the show, is the mystery and the questions, and longing for some serious answers now that we have whatever this next step is. We don't know what it is, so I'm certainly looking forward to it. But of course, we'd love to know what you guys thought about the finale, so please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts, least favorite parts. We'd love to know your favorite moments from this season. Of course, with the crazy ending that we got, this 2-year gap, what do you guys want to see from season 3? My biggest guess is that we're definitely going to be getting flashbacks to happier times. That's kind of a big thing that TV shows do all the time. If there's like a really big time skip, or if there's a time skip where something important happens, like people getting married and then getting divorced, typically that sort of thing is shown in flashbacks. So I assume we'll get to see them like get married. We'll get to see kind of how that played out and how they ultimately ended up falling apart. We'll see the team having gone on missions for those 2 years, or a big chunk of those 2 years, I would assume. So I'm definitely looking forward to getting some flashbacks. It's hard to say what we'll get to see from our characters that were kidnapped. Like, I don't know if we'll get to see their perspective at all, but I think that would be very cool if we got like very tiny bits and pieces of answers, or maybe they'll get rescued within the first episode. Excuse me, it's admittedly impossible to say at this point, but I'm very excited for what we're going to get. We'd love to know your theories, and mainly just what you guys want to see from season 3. I would love to see Roman come back. I'm sure we will. I don't know, it's hard to say. He's a character who's like almost a blank slate. He has to be his own person. He still has those memories of being like the crazy psycho killer, so We'll see if he becomes like a better person with the 2 year gap. But I'm sure we'll see him come back. I would love to see Nas come back. We got that little reference of her at the end, but I would love to see her come back in general. Even if they don't, they don't have to do the relationship obviously between her and Weller, and that's totally fine. I just like Nas as a character, honestly. Outside of the relationship, it didn't even matter to me. I was like, I just kind of think Nas is a pretty cool character, so I would love to see her come back. They got a bit of a better relationship with the CIA after officially stopping everything that happened. So I'd love to see that guy come into play and how that sort of awkward relationship that they have with him, where like no one kind of likes him because it's the CIA versus the FBI sort of deal. I would kind of like to see that play out a little more now that they're, I would assume, a bit better friends, since basically kind of saving this sort of half of the planet. I think that's a pretty big deal. So I'd like to see how those relationships have changed over the 2 years. But like I said, I would love to know what you guys thought about this season finale, what you guys thought about this season in general, and of course, what you guys want to see for season 3. So please put your comments down in the comment section below. And of course, thanks for watching.